Time for a tropical update, and we have Idalia. That is going to really get a lot of attention, not only from us here at 13 News Now, but for everybody living down along the Florida coast. It's getting a lot of national attention, as well as this system is forecast to become a hurricane later today and eventually potentially a major hurricane before making landfall in Florida. We'll take you across the Atlantic basin right now. We have two systems that we're actively tracking. There's Franklin, there is Idalia, and we'll start with a look at Franklin. This is a major hurricane. It's very healthy. Look at how beautifully well defined that eye is. This system's been moving along to the north-northwest, and I'll give you the tracking information on that in a moment. Then we have Idalia here, and this one not nearly as well organized or as strong as Franklin, but it has the potential to get there as it moves into the Gulf of Mexico. And you can see again, there's some outflow with it. We do not have an exposed eye or anything that is clearly defined there. So you've got a lot of cloud cover on the central part of that tropical storm, but the potential is there for it to really strengthen as it moves north and eventually comes into the Gulf of Mexico. So with the 5 a.m. update, Idalia was moving to the north at 7 miles per hour. It is forecast again to become a hurricane later today. Eventually a Category 3, a major hurricane with winds of 115 miles per hour by early Wednesday morning, and then make a run towards the Florida around the Big Bend coastal sections there of Florida, cutting up across North Florida, moving along the Georgia coastline as we go late Wednesday into early Thursday, overnight Wednesday into early Thursday, moving along the South Carolina coast, and then accelerating through the day on Thursday. By Friday, it should be pulling off to the east. So this is most likely going to be a glancing blow for Hampton Roads down to our south, but certainly southern part of the Outer Banks expecting tropical storm force winds. For Hampton Roads, most likely some enhanced rainfall and then some breezy conditions for our area. That's a look at the official track. Here's the spaghetti plots on Idalia, and you can see how the models are very much in agreement that this is going to track to the north and then make that turn into the Big Bend section of Florida there as it moves along right up the coast and then accelerating off to the east. So again, very good packing there with all of the different models here with the spaghetti plots. None of them bring the center up close to Hampton Roads, but all of these in this scenario would produce some of those gustier winds down along the southern Outer Banks. So folks here need to be prepared for tropical storm force conditions, but do keep this in mind too. The worst part of those systems when they're moving along the strongest winds sometimes are associated with some of the bands that kind of wrap around, but typically it's that right front quadrant. So on this track, the worst of the winds would stay down to the south and well to the south of our area, and that's certainly good news for Hampton Roads. Now for Franklin, again, a Category 3 storm could become a Cat 4 at some point, but it is forecast to strengthen a bit more before turning off to the northeast. There's Bermuda. Looks like the worst of it will probably pass a little bit out there to the west of Bermuda, certainly well to our east. It is going to kick up the surf, though, and we'll see a higher threat of rip currents along our coast. Finally, there's one more wave of low pressure that's going to come off the African coast that has a 40% chance of development over the next 5 to 7 days. So we'll be watching that. But for now, the biggest concern for our area, Idalia, and it does look like, based on what we see this morning, Idalia, the center, will stay far to the south, and we will see some enhanced rainfall later Wednesday into Thursday and some gustier winds as well, especially down over eastern North Carolina and the Outer Banks. Stay tuned to 13 News Now, and we'll keep you updated over the coming days.